Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game So today we're getting a series on the MiSTer FPGA DE10 Nano project, and somehow the entire month of May is basically behind us and we're moving on to June. And honestly, it's been another awesome month for MiSTer FPGA, so we're going to be recapping everything that came to the project this month, all of the core updates, all of the new cores, all of the new hardware, and pretty much what you can look forward to in June. Because basically I say it every single month, but it's been another great 30 days for MiSTer FPGA, so we're going to cover it all. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we have a Patreon link down below as well. But right off the top, the Sega Saturn got a nice update from SRG320 this month, and it's feeling so incredibly close to being finished, at least depending on what game you're actually playing. Some games have no issues whatsoever, some still have some minor bugs, but honestly, this is feeling like it might be ready to go, maybe late summer, early fall, but I am just guessing at that. And just so you're aware, if you're still using the most recent update all-core for Sega Saturn, you're probably like 6 months behind at this point in time. I've seen a lot of comments on videos saying that people are getting bugs in games that I'm showing that are bug-free, and that's just because this is still a manual installation only from the MiSTer FPGA Discord. So if you want to grab the most recent Sega Saturn core as of the recording of this video, just pop over to the Discord, go into Unstable Nightlies, and grab the core from there and just copy it into your consoles folder. Hopefully soon this will hit update all as well, so people can get into more of the fun of the updated Sega Saturn cores, but it's one of those things, if you're still on update all, you're not going to get the same results. But SRG320 has been absolutely killing it when it comes to the Sega Saturn core, as well as the companion Sega Titan Video core, and I can't wait to see what comes next, because honestly at this point in time, it really does feel like it's just down to the bug fixing territory as far as going through the GitHub issue tickets and kind of modifying the core to make sure that those bugs go away. But again, Sega Saturn is so good, and hopefully soon we'll have a test core for the 3DO as well. Nothing news-wise on that in the month of May, we just know it's coming, so that should be a fun time. But Sega Saturn is feeling like 98% done, and I can't wait to see where it goes next, because it is one of my favorite consoles of all time. Now speaking of consoles, let's talk about the new hardware this month. The MiSTer Multisystem 2 is available for pre-order, and I just ran my initial review on the unit. It was absolutely positive. I loved everything about it, and I did get a lot of questions as far as things I didn't cover in the review, some things that I never actually thought about, some very unique individualized use cases, and I am going to be running a part 2 on this before it actually ships out. So if you have any other questions on the Multisystem 2, leave me a comment down below and tell me what you want to know about it, because the second part is going to be answering a lot of user questions, like stuff like S-Video composite out of the back connections, and some other interesting uses for Snack. So it's one of those things that's always great to see more MiSTer FPGA hardware show up on the actual marketplace, because this is a very good price and it gets you into the MiSTer FPGA ecosystem. Whether it's your first MiSTer or your 7th or 8th, depending on who you are like me, it's fun to be able to have a console design, and this really kind of does blur that barrier between a project board and an actual home console, because the people that watch the MiSTer FPGA videos and say they haven't picked up one yet all seem to be hesitant to actually get into it because they don't think they can set it up. It's one of those things I try to always convince people that MiSTer FPGA is no harder to set up than any other emulator out there, and in a lot of cases easier, but there's something about the project quality of it having to do a triple stack build that kind of makes people think it's not for them, or they worry about damaging the hardware. So stuff like the Multisystem 2 is definitely going to bring more people to the party, and that's what I want for MiSTer FPGA. The bigger the user base, hopefully the more cores, the more units that are out in the world, the larger the installation base, and the more fun we're all having. And I'm sure you're all excited to get your Multisystem 2s when they do ship, so leave me a comment down below and tell me if you picked one up or not. I would be curious. But Heber 100% nailed the brief on the Multisystem 2. In my initial review on this thing, I really couldn't hang to anything to point to and say I wish they had done something different or I wish they had done it better. It's an all-encompassing MiSTer FPGA with a custom PCB, and it's one of those things. Everything that I tested on it, everything that I tried just worked, so the people that order these should be very excited very soon. Now let's move over to Wickerwaka's updated Taito F2 core. I will be running another preview video on this shortly to give you some more footage, but Wickerwaka has been hard at work bringing the Taito F2 over to MiSTer FPGA. And if you've noticed that there are some Taito F1 games on this core as well, that is because the F1 and F2 are basically the exact same board, just with a different PCB layout. A lot of times boards got new names even if they had the same hardware. And this is a situation where some boards have a 2 PCB setup and some boards have a 1 PCB setup, but it's running the exact exact same hardware and identical code. And honestly, Wickerwalk has been absolutely destroying it when it comes to MiSTer FPGA with his Irem M92 core, some of the best arcade games of all time. We've been able to play those on MiSTer FPGA for a while now, so getting Taito F2 is going to be another exciting thing, and honestly there's a ton of games that you can play today. They will have some visual glitches, they may have a few bugs, they may even freeze or kind of soft lock here and there because the core is still in active development, so I wouldn't consider it finished at all, but it is fun to test and play around with, and I'm sure in the next maybe 3 months, 6 months, this core will be buttoned up and you will be playing it, and that's going to be a ton of fun. Hopefully it means that one day we'll be playing Taito F3, not really any shared hardware between the two, but it's just a hope of mine. But I will say this game is absolutely fun, the board is amazing, and some of the games have a great soundtrack as well, so it's going to be your first soundtrack sample. Listen for 45 seconds and I'll be right back. Just a ton of fun on the F2 front, so I can't wait to see when the next update comes. But speaking of Japanese platforms that have shmups on them, this is the Sharp X68000 core, and it got an update as well in the month of May. And the X68000 core is one of those things, it basically just sits there stagnant until somebody comes along, runs an update, and then we have to wait some months to see what happens next. But anytime the X68000 updates, I make a video and people are very excited to hear about it, because this is probably the #1 core that people want to see picked up and finished. There's so many incredible games on the X68000. If you actually want to buy an original PC and it hasn't been modified yet, you're talking about like $1,000 plus all the work recapping it and putting in a new power supply. It is a very fun platform, but it is not a cheap one whatsoever. And while software emulation does exist, it can be very tricky to set up. Even for me, it will fight you here and there. So seeing that the MiSTer FPGA core has been updated makes me hopeful to think maybe we will see a couple more updates in 2025. This is just one of those cores. Some games you would have no idea that it wasn't already finished on, other games will not boot whatsoever, but it's a nice thing to see this core get a little bit more of love, and it makes me think that if this core got finished, it would probably be the de facto best way to play X68000 games, because the PCs are expensive and the emulation is hard, and the games sound incredible. Second soundtrack sample, 35 seconds, and I'll be right back. Fun music for a non-mini game, and again, it's just great to see X68000 get some love, and one of the games that ended up working that didn't really work before is Marble Madness, and in the preview video I did for the core, people talked about whether they loved this game or hated this game, and I swear it was probably the most even split as far as comments are concerned. It seemed like 50% of you love Marble Madness and 50% of you are driven nuts by it, but it's great to see the X68000 get an update. Now, on things that have nothing to do with FPGA but were fun in the month of May, Taki Udon showed some work in progress, just kind of proof of concept evidence of running RetroArch on an actual DE10 Nano or a clone. It's one of those things. For all of the cores we have on MiSTer FPGA, there are some cores we don't have, like Capcom CPS3, and people have been curious about actually running RetroArch on their MiSTer FPGA. So if you want to see me kind of demo this and maybe explain how you could do it too, leave me a comment down below. It's a very complex process to kind of try to get it running and something that you could actually test out, so I don't want to actually make it if you're not interested, so I would be curious. But it is fun to see this running, and it does show that the ARM cores on the Cyclone 5 FPGA chip do have enough horsepower to run something like Capcom CPS3. Now, I'm sure for every game that runs well, like something like Street Fighter 3, there's going to be games that are absolute slideshows just down to the emulation quality or the ARM cores in and of themselves. But this was a lot of fun just to see evidence of something like RetroArch on MiSTer. It would be fun to kind of have this adjacent for all of those games, especially on the arcade side of things, that we just don't have cores for, because there's so many incredible arcade games out there that you can't can't play on MiSTer FPGA yet, and while I would much prefer FPGA cores for them, if you just want to have one device hooked up to your television, if you want to play some Street Fighter 3, you can do something like that if you wanted to. It would be fun, and I would say the sound quality of the emulation excellent as well, which obviously is going to be the third soundtrack sample, and I'll be right back.
Prepare to strike now.
So yeah, at least as a proof of concept, RetroArch does run on MiSTer FPGA, and maybe you'll see more of it in the future. Maybe we'll never see it again. Keeping on the Taki Udon note here, there is a lot of movement on the overall UI. He's previewing that over on his Twitter. And if you're ever curious what Taki Udon and Retro Remake are doing and updating and giving you information on as far as the MiSTer Pi and the SuperStation One, Twitter is the #1 resource as far as getting that info. There's been some updates on the overall UI. There's been some updates on the dock, and it seems like we're still on track as far as maybe a fall delivery date. And if you're going to ask below about how it's going to affect the tariffs, I have absolutely no idea. I am not an economist. I'm not a politician. I just talk about video games. So as far as what, if any, tariffs may apply when this thing ships, we'll just have to wait and see. But I know you're going to ask me about that. Now, on the Jaguar side of things, the core did get updated this month as well for very rudimentary Jaguar CD support. It is just in a testing phase. It's got a lot of glitches. That's to be expected, but it's going to be fun to have Atari Jaguar CD support within the core, because Atari Jaguar CD hardware is, one, very expensive if you want to buy it, and two, absolutely prone just to break. There's so many reading issues, there's so many motor issues. Honestly, the Jaguar CD, most people that I know that own them just have them as example units that sit on top of the Atari Jaguar, but they'll use some sort of flash card to actually run the games because the hardware is incredibly temperamental. So having something like the CD being supported in MiSTer FPGA is going to be great for preservation as well, because as much fun as Rich Whitehouse's Big PMU is for Atari Jaguar, playing on an FPGA core is every bit as good. It's going to be one more console you can just sit down at your TV and play when you turn on your MiSTer FPGA. And trust me, the Jack CD library is not big whatsoever. It has some fun games like Primal Rage or Brain Dead 13, and it also has some games like Highlander, which you're just not quite sure what they were thinking when they made that game. It is janky and all of the worst games, and probably doesn't really have much redeeming value outside of just kind of poking fun at it and wondering why a Highlander game, which could have been good, ended up being so bad. But the reality is, Atari Jaguar CD is for the hardcore collectors out there, because if you don't own a Jaguar CD today, the odds of you going out and wanting to buy one are probably 0%. So something like MiSTer FPGA is just going to let you experience this hardware as close to original as you can get, and it's going to keep these games alive, because I'm sure in 5 or 10 years, almost all the Atari Jaguar CD units out there are going to be non-functional, except the ones that people have spent a lot of time and money to keep alive. So hopefully we see another Atari Jaguar update in the month of June. And the last thing to talk about, something that actually ended up happening at the end of May, but it was a little too late to talk about in the news episode, is Hotego's Rolling Thunder core. There's been a couple other cores this month, but I'll get to those later on because I just haven't had time to sit down and capture them. But getting Rolling Thunder on MiSTer FPGA is a ton of fun. It's a highly challenging game that wants to steal your quarters, mug you in a back alley, and leave you for dead in all of the most fun ways you can imagine. And it's great to see more arcade cores coming. But that's everything that happened in the month of May for MiSTer FPGA, and hopefully June's going to be every bit as big, if not bigger, of a month. And hopefully one day soon we'll be testing that 3DO core, because that's what I'm most excited about. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below, but we're done. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.